Teddy Lawlor.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Like we were just saying, it's been a busy few weeks, but I'm glad to finally just sit down for once and have a little bit of conversation, like a little bit of therapy for me. So I love it.
Perfect. And you are an entrepreneur. That is like your main thing.
Yeah.
And you've been quite a successful entrepreneur by all accounts. So you've been in a lot of media from a relatively young age. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And how did like that all start? Like what got you into entrepreneurship?
It's one of those weird things where it was actually negative situations that got me here. So I went through a really bad depression in 2017 whilst I was in my first year of uni. So that's like the normal time where people start finding their feet. For me, it is where I started to panic because I was like, who am I? What am I doing? What do I want to do? I was studying marketing. Do I want to study marketing? Do I want to go into a career? Do I want to be an entrepreneur? I used to call it a businessman. I always wanted to be that since I was a little kid in primary school. So yeah, it was that sort of existential crisis. And I was like, if this is what my uni are teaching me to prepare me for the big wide world, I'm in serious trouble. So I thought, you know what, I need to take matters in my own hands. And I started a media group called If Only They Knew, which at the time was just an Instagram page posting business content. And that was my first sort of step into the world of business. And it's just grown ever since then.
So going back to the depression, kind of that's what brought you into this world. Was that mainly because you didn't know what you wanted to do? That's what brought it on. Yeah,
it was the panic of, like I said, if what uni is supplying me is all I've got, all my tools in my kit to go out into the big wide world, I'm panicking. I've had no life experience because I just went through the education system sort of in Cotton Wool, and I was very protected by my parents who didn't want me sort of going out. Where I grew up in Bermondsey, it was really rough. They didn't want me sort of hanging about at all. So all my life I was sort of afraid, I guess is the best word to describe it. And yeah, it got to a point where I was like, all that sort of the years of trying to protect myself actually folded inwards and collapsed on me. And I just completely panicked. So yeah, that is where the depression come from. And it's only now I realise how pivotal that moment was, but that's exactly where it come from. Yeah.
And did you stay with the course at uni? So did you complete that?
Yeah. Just so, long story short, I got into like the final year. The teachers completely messed it up for us. I failed one project, like module, and I luckily somehow got it back and achieved the first class degree, which is like the highest you can get. I got the highest score in the class, but that was so irrelevant to where I'm at now. You know, like at the moment in the time, I was like, yes, this is brilliant. I got first. But when you look back, the main thing that I took from uni was creating If Only They Knew in that little dorm sort of classroom. Like that was the main thing for me, because that's where I met people from The Apprentice, people from Dragon's Den. That's where I evolved into doing my own podcast and meeting new people, connecting. And that was the stem of it all. So it sort of just shows that you don't know where you're going in life, you know. Like I just started an Instagram page. Little did I know 7 years later now that I'd be where I am all because of that page. I wouldn't have met Rob without the podcast, who's my business partner on a lot of the projects. So yeah, it all started from there. But yeah, I did okay at uni, but it definitely didn't serve me as much as you'd think, you know.
Yeah, and it was 2017, was that right? That's like your first year. Yeah. Did you notice, or like did anyone else around you like have that similar feeling?
It was a weird setup, I'm not going to lie. Like the people in the class, I hope they don't hear this, it was just bizarre. Like they were all like in their 40s and 50s. So I was one of the only young kids in there in the uni class. And they were just there just because someone had said it would be a good idea to go to uni and study business. But they were all working as like kitchen porters and like caretakers and stuff. So it was a very weird time for me, because I think that added to my pressure, because I felt like the black sheep. Like everyone was just there just because, and I really wanted to put my heart and soul into becoming a businessman, like I said. And yeah, that panic of like, what on earth is everyone doing? And I felt that even in primary school, secondary school. I don't know what it is, and we'll probably talk about on a spiritual level. I don't know what that is, but there was always something in me where I thought, you know what, I feel like I'm meant for more. But yeah, I don't know what that was, but that was definitely a big part of what kept me going, because I just felt that, you know, that untapped potential in me. Like even now I feel it. Like, I just feel like there's more to give. There's more. So yeah, I don't know where that come from entirely, but it's part of the thing that kept me going.
Yeah, I mean that's weird. Like when you think of uni, you think of like 18, like just come in, like
Party
you don't really,
life.
yeah. You don't see like the older demographic sort of in that space. But then on the other side of that, with social media especially, everyone thinks they've got to have their life figured out before 25, like set in stone. Like this is what I'm doing. But on the flip side, you know, at uni, 40, 50. They still don't know what they want to do, and they're there on that course.
Yeah, it was that like I've always said, like if it's always important to have some sort of reference or role model. So for me, my references in that classroom were people double my age that were in a lot worse position than I was, and that was panicking, because if they were all double my age and double my experience level and double sort of my progress level, I'd be fine with that because it seems natural. But when they're double your age and like a lot, like not doing anything, I was like, oh my God, didn't know anyone. So that's why I started If Only They Knew, connected with people from The Apprentice back in 2017, people from Dragon's Den, and they were my role models. So I was looking up at like Lawlor and Sugar, the people from The Apprentice, and they were the ones that I thought, you know what, let me just sort of model what they were doing, speak to them, ask them some questions. And weirdly enough, they're people from The Apprentice that basically saved my life without knowing. I did message one of them, Anissa Topan. She was on the 2017 series of The Apprentice. And long story short, I was sitting there one day watching Gary Vee on the telly, like on YouTube. And I was like, I don't think I'm cut out for this, because he's like high energy, doing this, doing that, going everywhere. And I thought, I don't think I'm cut out for this entrepreneur life. And I was seriously considering quitting, not just If Only They Knew, but quitting like life in general, because I just didn't feel like I had it in me. And I thought, you know what, that's it. I'm shutting up shop. I'm stopping If Only They Knew. I don't know whether I'm going to be alive or not, or whether I even want to be alive. I'm just quitting everything. I went to write a post saying, on my If Only They Knew page, saying I'm quitting, stopping the page. Thanks for your support. This was only a few months in, because it was building up traction, but it didn't feel like enough. And Anissa from The Apprentice actually sent me a message randomly saying, hey Ted, love what you're doing. Keep it up. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. And that was the one message as I was just about to post saying If Only They Knew shut, that kept me going. And if it wasn't for that message, I wouldn't have carried on with If Only They Knew. And again, I wouldn't be here today. So it's those weird little things along the journey that have just sparked something again and reignited the flame, you know?
Yeah, and it goes into, like, we'll go into it more in depth later, but the manifestation, like, something happens at like a pivotal point, and you've got a choice to make, and then it just comes in, like that message, like you're about to post, and it comes in.
That's it. I've had it before, like where I've gone down to almost zero in my bank account, and it's so hard, obviously, to stay positive when you're going through that. Like I've been there multiple times as well. I'm not afraid to say it, and I know the process of getting out of it. And the process of getting out of it seems so backwards, because most people say, go get a job quick and panic, like get a loan, get this, get that. But the weirdest and hardest most thing to do, which is what I've done every single time, is to almost just sit there. You look like an idiot to your parents and stuff, because they're thinking, what is this guy doing? Like, he owes me rent and he's not pulling his finger out. You just sit there and just sort of work from a place of positivity. And I know that people are going to slate me in the comments for that, because it sounds so like, yeah, woo-woo, whatever. But honestly, that's the process that worked. Every time I've almost gone to zero in my bank, something comes out of nowhere, pops up and pulls me straight back out of it. So yeah, it's positive thinking, but there's a lot more to it than that. I'm sure we'll get into.
I've been in that exact same position where the business has been literally 24 hours away from being bankrupt.
Yes. Yeah.
And you're like, I can either lose my head, start flapping around, or we can just stay calm in this. And something is going to come through, and it does.
Yeah,
and it does.
Always. And I don't know what that is. Like, I know obviously it's like law of attraction and that sort of side of thing. I don't really understand where it's coming from, and I don't think we need to understand potentially where it's coming from or why it even can happen like that. But 100% I've experienced it like you have. If you just keep going and you just stay positive and you don't let it sort of consume you, your situation consume you, something will come out of nowhere. Now, it's a fine line. Like I said, like you said, 24 hours away. I've literally been like minutes away from not only stopping projects, but wanting to just quit completely, like just life. And something always comes through. And I've had it multiple times. I don't know what that is, but yeah, law of attraction, I guess.
Yeah. And then so you finished uni. What happened after that?
Finished uni, was buzzing, got my first class degree. I thought, yes, I'm going to be like a marketeer. I'm going to go into the marketing world. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to fly. I'm going to be a marketing director one day of a massive company. But all of this wasn't to do with, my vision wasn't being an entrepreneur at that stage. I sort of lost that again. So my vision was like, yes, just get a good career. And for years I went through marketing, getting my career up, going through the gears. Wasn't for me. Again, depression after depression after depression just wasn't, again, it was that untapped potential in me. I was like, it's just something's not right. Just kept going. And then one day, long story short, doing my podcast, staying positive, getting inspired by these people, my mum said, why don't you get a good friend of hers from school on my podcast? I was like, yeah, sure. Who is it? Thinking, can't be bothered. I can't even be bothered with life, let alone a podcast. And this was during the lockdown, so it's many years later. And my mum says, Robert Hisee, he's a unconscious mind therapist. I was like, I don't know, Mum, I don't even know what that means, what you're on about. And she was like, just get him on your podcast. It might be good for you. And I thought, yeah, cool. Got him on my podcast. We got on well. And there was that spark, you know, and you feel that moment where you're like, this feels like more than a podcast. And then after the episode, we started chatting more and more and more, started helping him with like graphics and stuff. And then long story short, he's my business partner on the Manifestation Journal, which then led to the Manifestation app, which has sort of changed my life completely. So that one moment was worth it, just meeting Rob, especially at the time I was in. I was like becoming a man myself. And he was sort of one of the people there that sort of showed me a few things to guide me on the journey, you know.
So how old were you when you met Rob?
So it would have been, I think, 2020. So I was 22, 21. Okay. So during the first lockdown, if you look back on the episode that's on YouTube with me and Rob, like I was chubby, like my hair was all over the place because it was obviously during lockdown, everything just went crazy. So yeah, that was a pivotal moment in my life. There's been so many, but that was definitely up there. And that's what sparked the journey I'm on now, really.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got it inside them, like that like spark and drive to do what they aspire to do. It's just whether you act on it. And I always found people that didn't act on it, the older they get, the more like resentful they get of other people chasing that same drive that they once had.
That's it. And I've seen that before, like when we've been in situations where you're working with someone and, you know, you just sense that they don't want you to get in with them, and they don't really want to help. And I feel like that's a big part of it. Like my ethos has always been just to give more than I've even got sometimes. Like the amount of like people that have just come up to me and asked for money and I've given it to them, or people in the street ask for food, I just give them a load of food. Like I just coming from a place of abundance within myself and trying to share that with others, I feel like is the best way to go. And those people that you see trying to hold their cards to their chest and trying to sort of cut people off because like forget them, they don't know this, blah, blah, blah. Like that mindset is a very quick way to sort of end your journey. Whereas the abundance mindset can take you anywhere in life, and I really, really do believe that.
Yeah, you know, I read something the other day. It made me smile. It said someone's got a boomerang vibes, and it's like what you put out, you get back.
Yes, I love that.
And I was just like, that is a great analogy of it, and it's so true. Like what you give out is what comes about.
That's it. And like I said, in weird ways, it comes back in really weird ways. Like I've got a list on my phone of things that I've sort of manifested, and it all stems from one positive moment somewhere. It could have. It's always weird because they say like, if you're looking to achieve something big, plant a tree beforehand, or give something, you know, like give something before the meeting or whatever it's going to be. And I've always sort of known that deep down anyway, like before I first heard that, I always sort of had that feeling like if I want to get, I need to give. Again, I don't know where that comes from, but that's just always been my ethos, just give, and just knowing that without the expectation of it even coming back, but also that knowing that it will just boom around and you'll get it back in some way, even if it's not directly related to it. It will come back at some point, you know?
Yeah, I love the fact. So I checked out your Instagram, and the very first post is 2015. It's like life goals, and it's like the Audi there. And you drive an Audi. Yeah. Is it you still drive one?
Yeah. So yeah, I had the Audi, crashed it. I'm now in a smart car, believe it or not. Yeah, so I crashed the first one, and then the second one, the engine blew up. And again, that goes back, like that was part of my vision. then when you get it, it's what every entrepreneur that I've seen sort of achieve their goals. When they get it, it's that feeling of, is that it? Like, it's fun for a week, fun with the roof down, flying around, and then after a week or a weekend, you're like, all right, what's next? Like, and then you lose that, and then you have to build on that vision. So yeah, I just thought, you know what? What's the point? I've had 2 of them now, just because I was constantly chasing that. I need to get that vision again, get that vision. And every time I was in the car, something went wrong. It was blowing up, or like, you know, just stupid things. And it was like, I just get that sense that sometimes the universe really does show you when you're not operating on that right frequency or from that right level. Because every time I was in that car, there was issues, like no matter what. So I just went, you know what, forget that, ditching it. I got a smart car, best car I've ever had, love it. Like, and you know, it's just so incognito. Like, there's something about being quite basic that I'm enjoying now. I don't know what it is. It's just that feeling of being grateful for the small things in life. So now I've gone from wanting material stuff to now wanting experiences. So now I'm looking at like going to Thailand, going to Bali. I'm really looking at what's next for me in terms of an experience level, because all the material stuff, I can already tell once I get the things on my vision board, I already know I'm just going to be like, okay, whatever, like move on. So yeah, there's a big part of it now is my whole mindset shift into what's really important. And I don't think the cars and stuff are important, but that was something that was always on my vision, as you saw from 2015 or whenever it was. But yeah, it's sort of irrelevant to me now. You know, I feel a lot more spiritual and a lot more calm and grateful for me and the small things I've got.
Yeah, I always sort of look at it as there's 2 kinds of entrepreneurs. There's the materialistic ones and the spiritual ones.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can have a third way, kind of like the combination of the 2.
Yeah.
Again, similar to you, I was very materialistic in the beginning. When I was young, I was 19 when I set up my business, and sort of 2021, 22, making good money, and I could afford to buy nice things. And after a while, it's just kind of just boring. Like the novelty wears off.
Yeah.
And then
I do think it's important to get it out your system. From my perspective, I do feel like any entrepreneurs out there or anyone just wanting to achieve a little bit more, I do feel like it's important to sort of get to a level and play about with it, if that makes sense, and sort of have that weekend where you enjoy the nice things. Like the other week I went to Mayfair, it was just ridiculous. Like, but we just wanted to get it out of our systems to say, right, we've done it now. We can say we've done it in our minds and we know it's possible. We're not doing that again because it was ridiculous. Like 2 sea bass, I won't even say how much it costs, but for 2 sea bass and 2 glasses of wine, it was just a joke. And I was like, you know what? It's not for me. It's not for me. I'd rather go Nando's, spend 20 quid and be around the right people with the right experiences. But I do feel like that it's important to feel it and touch it, whether it's the car you want, just get in the car or whatever it is. It goes back to one of the visualization techniques I've in sort of introduced and used for myself as well, as like the blink method, I call it. So literally all I'll do is I'll sit there and I'll look at my hands and I'll just blink, 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 and I'll keep blinking. And then, you know, when you look at a light and you shut your eyes and you see the light like behind your eyelids, I do that with my hands. So then when I shut my eyes after continuously blinking, you can almost see your hands like behind your eyelids, like as you got your eyes shut. And then what I'll do is I'll move my hand. It sounds mad. I'll move my hands in my mind to like wrap them around like the Audi steering wheel, for example, and I'll visualize that. And I'll be like, right, how does it feel to actually be first person in my dream, whatever that is? Or if one of my dreams is to be a TEDx speaker. So I picture myself on stage, gripping the mic, and I'm like, right, what would my left hand be doing? And I'd really go through the motions of trying to experience it all while sitting there with my eyes closed. And there's something about blinking and looking at your hands so you can really see exactly the shape and size of your hands in your mind. That really gives you like a tangible almost feel to that visualization. And that's something I'm big on at the minute. So I'm continuously doing that, but it's all more centered around experiences now. Like I said, I want picturing the mic and what I'd be doing with my left hand. It's all more experiences in that sense.
Yeah, I mean, every great sort of person in their field, like we speak to like Muhammad Ali, Arnold Schwarzenegger, stuff like that, they all say visualization. Yeah. Like they saw themselves there before they were there.
That's it. And that's a big part of how I've always been since a kid. I always wanted to be a businessman. had no idea how I'd even get there or what it even looked like. And it's only as I grew older, I built upon that vision. And now I have like a pretty solid understanding of where I want to be. But like I said to you before this, every week something new pops up and it sort of pivots and changes. But I feel like if you was to look at it from a sort of eagle view and you saw, right, that's the start, that's the finish, the middle bit is sort of irrelevant. That's why now I just go with the flow. If Rob calls me up and says, look, we've got this project, are you in? I'll just say yes, because it seems completely random, but I know it's all set to shift me and pivot me towards the ultimate end goal, pivot me through that maze, you know?
Yeah. And when you were working with Rob, is that how your ADHD diagnosis came around, was with Rob?
Yeah. So I'm self-diagnosed. I know not many people sort of openly say that they all chase that sort of medical diagnosis, but I diagnosed myself because interacting with Rob and learning a bit more about ADHD, it sort of made me realize how much I do have it. We share the same sort of habits. And yeah, it helped me understand not only how to survive with ADHD by implementing certain tactics, but how to thrive with it. So at work, the amount of times I've almost been sacked from almost every job I've had because I was disorganized. I was all over the place. I was up 1 minute, down the next, and I could just picture myself as like a loose cannon in these like really serious offices. And it's only when I learned to sort of how to thrive with it and what it could be that I really sort of managed to cope with it a little bit more, you know, and that sort of helped me understand even small things like the Myers-Briggs type indicator that Rob showed me, understanding yourself and your personality and how to interact with others and communicate with others. Like all those things are just understanding who you are and how to interact has really, really helped me.
And going on from that, you then made the manifestation journal.
Yes.
Which then led to the app. What originally, like, whose idea was it? Like, how did that all come around? Again,
a bit of serendipity. So me and Rob are always on the phone every day, just talking about projects. And we spoke about what's next for us. Like we had been working on small different projects for other people together, and we never had like sort of locked heads and really got stuck into something ourselves. So we said, look, let's do something. We were like, right, let's think about it. We don't want to rush. Then one day I called him. I said, Rob, I got this idea. And as I started to say it, he went, I know what you're going to say, to the journal. I was like, how did you know that? He said, I've just had the same idea this morning as well. So we literally I believe in like the downloading data almost from the universe, which sounds a bit mad, but I believe we both sort of tapped into the right thing at the right time together because our brains were on that same frequency. So we both come up with the idea together, which sounds insane. But yeah, we was like, you know what, that's the best way to put what had helped us over the past few months back then. The best way to package it up, we thought at the time, would be to put it into a physical book that people can have by their desks or by their beds, so they can fill it out in the morning, throughout the day, and in the evening as well. So it was a real tangible way to sort of teach what we were putting into practice ourselves. And of course, that's obviously evolved over time into the app. So now everyone can get it in their phone, which is good.
And going into the app, you kind of have like it's like the temple, isn't it? Where you have like all the different sort of lessons. So is that both you and Rob who have like made the lessons there?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So Rob come up with the idea. It's called the content page is called the Universal Frequency Thought Academy. Rob's really creative with those names. So it's all about, like content to raise your frequency essentially. So there's all stuff from meditations, motivations, unconscious mind therapy, obviously from Rob as well. And just a whole range of stuff, breath work from myself. So we've got a whole range of stuff there. Again, all stuff we were talking about just on a one-to-one basis between me and Rob. All stuff we filtered down into like a educational video and put into the app.
Yeah, I did my first breathwork workshop. I think it was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
it's pretty mad.
Yeah,
it's pretty mad. I'd never done anything like that before, so I was like a bit skeptical about what to expect. But it was powerful.
I did a breathwork session in December. I did 1 hour transformative breathwork by my good friend Sophie in Alperton. Ever Evolving is her Instagram name, and we went for an hour. Changed my life. I thought I thought I'd reached a certain point in my life where I sort of felt like I knew myself and I understood myself. But with this breathwork session, we really went down into deep stuff. Like I visualized myself somehow, the trauma my mum went through when she gave birth to me. Didn't even know, I never spoke to her about, never even thought about it in my life. And it was all centered around being born and my mum, my dad, and really early grassroots level of evolving and being a being. And it was bizarre because we had 3 sessions. The first session, like, I was like, what on earth was that? Second session, I was like, I think I'm like getting onto whatever this thing is trying to teach me. And then the third session, it felt like I had a breakthrough. I understood exactly what it meant, and I sort of unlocked it. And then at the same time, I spoke to a tarot reader, just completely randomly, and she's basically predicted exactly where I'd end up. And a month later, everything she said had become true. So yeah, December, January was like a transformative time for me, and the breath work definitely helped.
Yeah, you just feel like when you come out of it, like you feel like you've just sort of like been distant from the world, and then you like come back in. Everything it is a very strange experience to begin with.
Yeah, it is. It was definitely something that I'd recommend anyone I'd recommend it to anyone, but specifically if you've got pain and you feel pain, or if someone recommends or suggests that you may have some sort of trauma locked up in the way you speak. If you know, some people speak with a bit of venom, or they snap too quickly, and you just get a sense that they could just sort of, they've got something there that's a bit tight and a bit locked up. And if they could just sort of tap into it, like I did, it starts breaking up over time through the breathwork sessions. Then before you know it, 3rd session, 4th session, whatever it may be, one day it will just unlock, and you'll be like, oh, that's why I was being so feisty, or that's why I was being so snappy with people. It was something my mum said to me when I was 3, or it's something my dad did to me when I was like, it's just bizarre. And I don't know exactly how it all works, but it's definitely something I'd recommend to just start unlocking the shackles that many of us had, many of us have, and what I definitely had when I was back in 2017 going through what I was going through. If I would have done the sessions then, it would have propelled me to go on even further and even quicker. But it's I believe in the universe's timing, so I feel like it's all right time, right place. I had to go for it in December and January to get to where I am now. So
so say if you had done it back in 2017, like your trajectory would have been completely different.
Completely, like, different life lessons and stuff. Yeah,
no, 100% with that. And again, like going back to it, it's like I've only done one session. I've got another session. I think it's in like 2 weeks' time. Yeah, but it's kind of like the way I see it now is like you're working your way through an onion. Just taking the layers off. It's like you're never going to hit like the gold pot.
That's it.
After one session of it, and I think that's what a lot of people get put off by.
Yeah,
they want like the instant breakthrough answers after one session with something.
That's it. I think it's a lesson that I definitely took on, was just taking time with it, understanding it, and understanding that everything that happens to me is my responsibility and potentially even my fault. Like if I go out today and it rains and I get wet, it's not the rain's fault for making me wet. It's my fault for not bringing an umbrella or for staying it, like going outside. Like it's my responsibility to sort of look after myself, if that makes sense. So I can't, a big thing I notice in people, and I was one of them before, blaming everything else. Oh, it's the government's fault. Oh, it's my mum's fault. It's my dad's fault. But at some point you've got to let that go. Otherwise you turn into what we mentioned earlier. You turn into one of those bitter old people in their 50s, 60s that just have so much hate and resentment for everyone else because they're projecting their own insecurities onto everyone else. But if they had just at one point looked inwards, they would have realised maybe it was me. Maybe it was me why she left, or maybe it was me why my dad did this, or just having that sort of inwards approach. I feel like it's a game changer. It's definitely changed my life and the way I deal and interact with people.
Yeah, that mindset, like how I came across it was through books. Like I was studying philosophy. I don't know if you heard of Stoicism.
Yes.
So that is what I started studying. And then that kind of outlook on life, like the more I read, the more it sort of ingrained in me, like everything's your fault, basically. And a situation outside your control, like you can control how you react to it and everything like that. And that is how I then proceeded through life. And things get better. The more you take responsibility for things, the more your life improves.
And that's such a hard conversation to have with anyone, like trying to have it with friends and family especially, because if you say that happened to you because of you, or you're acting this way yes, because you think because it is, but you're continuing and allowing yourself to continue with that issue. Is it therefore your fault that you're letting it sort of still override how you think and feel on a daily basis? Is it your fault? And trying to say that to someone, especially when they're in a state of pain, is a very hard conversation to have, because a lot of us, and I used to do it and still do with some things, you do want to sort of have that moment where it's someone else's fault, because it takes the blame off of you a bit, and it's a lot easier to say, yeah, but I think it's them, because it's so hard, like you said, during the breath work and stuff, to go inward. It is so difficult and painful at times, and killing your ego is powerful, but it is super painful. It's a super painful process. Trying to kill it is very difficult. But when you do sort of work on it, you then start seeing it even more in others, because you're like, I was like that at one point as well, you know. So it's difficult. But at the minute, I'm running mindset workouts, which are like a mental health workshop, and I'm doing that for that reason, because I interact with a lot of people that are talking about issues they're having externally, but really it's issues they're having internally and just don't realize. So I'm bringing people together. The first one's in 2 weeks actually. And it's literally just teaching people how to take control of your nervous system, how to take control of your mindset, your body, how to visualize, how to use affirmations, like a whole sort of package. But the overriding underlying theme is literally going to be how to sort of destroy that ego, in a sense. Like, ego isn't the arrogance, what most people think it is. Ego is just the package of who you think you are. So I'm someone that, if, for example, I'm someone that's been abused, or I'm someone that's been discriminated against, like, that's your ego, because that's your personality, when really your personality actually forms your personal reality. So I look at how to sort of break that down, you know, and get rid of it all.
For anyone that's watching and wants to attend one of your workshops, how would they go about doing that?
Yeah, so just go to my Instagram at Ted Lawlor. I've got all the information on there. They're called mindset workouts because it's just like a physical workout. You'll go to the gym every other day and have a plan around that. But when it comes to mindset, like we just said, many people just avoid even touching their mind and they don't want to get into it, you know? So I'm sort of creating almost like a series of personal trainers that will be part of my team that will be able to help you with a sort of a brain prep. Like, you get food prep, this would be like a brain prep, how to take control of your brain, your body, and ultimately your entire reality.
And a lot of people out there, like including myself, I'm not a massive believer in therapy. I didn't want to go down that route for when I was struggling, when I had depression and everything. Yeah. I didn't want to go. I wanted to obtain tools to then not be in that position again. Yeah. And that for me was mindset. Like, studying mindset was philosophy and mindset books. Yeah. And that for me is what helped me through. I think a lot more people, especially, it's like quite taboo. A lot of people don't want to go to therapy. Yeah. But they'll go to a mindset workshop. Yeah, that's it. And that's what it is. It's almost like a Trojan horse. It's a disguise, in a sense, like to get people through the door, because they'll look at it on a high level and think, oh, this sounds quite fun. When really I'll be showing them and slowly implementing small stages and small steps to help them break down that ego whilst tapping into their mind and their soul, essentially. So it will be very deep, but on a high level, I'm making it look very simple. So when they get there, we'll start off simple, and then by the end of it, after 2 hours, the sessions are, at the end of it, you'll come away thinking, I feel like I did a lot more than just sort of listen to that guy. I feel like I got a lot more from it, because I'm going to be doing breathwork sessions in between. And this is my first one in 2 weeks. No one knows what to expect. So I'm keeping my cards close to my chest in terms of what we're going to go through, but I'm essentially going to lock them away in a room with me, and we'll go through some very deep processes, still keeping it fun and light in places, but the core of it will be really getting deep into it. So we'll be talking about the different visualization techniques. We'll go through breathwork sessions. We'll do a guided meditation with everyone in the room doing it together. Again, I believe in that collective consciousness. So if there's 20 odd people in the room in 2 weeks' time, all putting their focus on a certain goal together and putting their frequencies at a certain level all together at the same time, I feel like we can really create magic. And the vision of it is to go from a class of 20 to a class of 200, 2,000, and just keep building it out. Because if we can get 200, 2,000 people all meditating, all implementing breath work,
imagine when they go home that night, the people they interact with, whether it's their husband, their mum, their dad, whoever it's going to be, they're going to feel that effect as well of that sort of raised vibration, and they'll spread the seed, so to speak. And the power of manifestation that saved my life in 2017 will just get spread out into the world. And that is my mission, to share the power of manifestation.
And these workshops, are they going to be only in person, or will it be Zoom?
Yeah, I will do Zooms at some point. I just feel like for the first few, I wanted to get into the real nitty gritty of it and sort of look people in their eyes and have those group meditation sessions. And once I figure out the formula and how that interacts and works with the people, then we'll take it online and take it internationally and stuff. But I feel like the magic's going to be when you're sitting in, the first one's in a cinema room. So you're going to be sitting in a small cinema room with me and 20 other people. It's going to be real magic.
Because you don't really hear much about like a workshop like that in terms of physical one. The only other one I know is Tony Robbins.
Yes.
And he does that 7-day one, which is huge.
Yeah.
And I watched, I don't know if you saw the documentary on it on Netflix, where they sort of went in and did it.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
That made me cry. There were so many moments in there where you see what I'm hoping to see with that one-to-one interaction, where Tony speaks to someone who's about to commit suicide, and they just break down in tears because they don't know where to look. And he manages to find something just by looking sort of in his eyes and in his soul. He managed to find something that just connects, and he says a magic word or whatever it may be that resonates with the guy. And then before you know it, you've just saved someone's life. Like, I would die happy knowing that I've done that. Like, imagine saying you've saved someone's life and stopped them from taking your own life. To me, that's what it's about. Like, that's the key.
That is better than any form of currency.
Yeah,
like, I've been in similar situations where I've helped people who have been struggling, and beats any money in the world like that.
Yeah, it does.
What you get from helping that one person.
Yeah, it does. But I find it's sometimes hard when people are struggling and you're not at a good level yourself. So it's almost, you have to take care of yourself in order to actually sort of pour some of the extra water you've got into others. Otherwise, you're like half empty, trying to fix half empty, and it's like you're never going to be able to get there. Like, I've had people recently sort of calling my phone saying they don't know what to do. And because I was going through a bit of a rut myself recently, it was like, I don't know how to help you, mate, because I don't even know how to help myself right now, you know? Like, and it's very hard to give if you haven't sort of given to yourself. Tony Robbins says it. It says when you're on the plane, they always say if the oxygen mask come down, don't put it on your friend first, put it on yourself, and then take your oxygen in so you get to a better level, and then give it to your friend or whoever's sitting next to you. Because if you can't help yourself first, then you're useless to everyone.
Yeah, and it's the same like with energy. Like, people pick up on that. So if you're not in a great place and someone's not in a great place, they're going to pick up that you're not in a great place. It's like going to a doctor, asking for health advice, and they're out of shape, overweight, and you're like, why am I coming to you?
That's it, yeah. It's weird though about when you talk about frequency. Like, I've had moments when I was working the job just after I finished uni. I was working a job and I didn't really like it, but one day I went in with a bit more of that feeling that I was on a mission, just a bigger mission than the job, and I was planning to leave the job. And when I was going to lunch that day, it was like a scene from The Matrix or something. I was walking through like the busy crowd of people, all in their suits, and like everyone's looking militant and upset and just depressed and grey and black and white. Then like they're all just storming past me. And as I'm walking to the shop to get some lunch, out of the crowd, the whole crowd just separates like that. And like, you know, like when it makes your heart drop, because I thought, what's going on? And I looked up and it was like some young girl, must have been my age, homeless. Like, I only could tell she was homeless just because like her clothes had holes in and stuff. And she walked through the crowd straight up to me, and like it made me jump. I thought, what does she want? Like, why is she walking up to me? She was like, I'm so sorry to bother you. I just wondering if you've got any change. And like, you know, and it just feels like it's just a moment where it's never left. So I took her into the shop and I just bought her loads of stuff. But it's like, I feel like my frequency being on a slightly different level to everyone potentially in my mind, everyone else around me, it sort of attracted that woman to me. And in that moment, I was able to help her because that morning I'd set myself up to help myself in that sense. I was like, right, today's the day I'm on a mission. I'm going to leave my job. And I meet this young lady that needs the help. And for some reason, out of everyone, she's connected with me. And again, I think it's just law of attraction. You get what you put out.
And that's why it's so important, to surround yourself with the correct people.
Yeah.
Because if you surround yourself with people who are like, again, blaming others instead of taking the blame. I'm conscious that you find yourself doing that.
Yeah.
Like I've had people in the company, in my company before who are very much, nothing's ever their fault. Any accident, oh no, it's because of this, because of that. And then you spend enough time with them, then you find yourself blaming, and you're like, wait, no, can't do this.
Yeah, it's contagious, and I've had people like that before that say you're reacting to me badly because that's how you mistook my tone of voice, and it's like, well, no, how about your tone of voice is the issue, not the way I interpreted that negative tone of voice, you know. And I think a lot of people struggle to, like we said, struggle to go inwards. But there's so many layers to it. And I feel like the first step for anyone listening that feels that feeling of not being 100% there, I think the first thing is to just get started on a practical level, do some meditations, just to have a moment, because many of us don't even sit to think, have a moment just to sit there and just no phone, no sounds, no nothing, close your eyes so you're not getting any sensory input. Just sit there and just think for 5 minutes. Like, you don't need to go on a journey in your mind. Just sit there and think. And that's the first step. Once you've done that, you'll start working your way through thought processes, and you'll be like, right, okay, I never thought that before. I never understood that before. And once you get on that path, that's it. I feel like once the universe sort of picks up that you're on that journey, I feel like that's it. It sort of swoops in and sort of holds your hand for the rest of the way. And I feel like that's what happened to me. 2017, started meditating, started looking at practical manifestation techniques, the visualizations, affirmations. And ever since then, I've really felt like something or someone was there just holding my hand all the way, you know, which is powerful. But just start on a practical level, start there.
And you say, like, at the moment, like, you're here, there and everywhere in the journey, and you had the start and you got the end.
Yeah.
What is the end for you?
So the end for me, I just picture wellness centers. So like lodges essentially in the countryside where people can just come and go. Ideally something that's like not even charged, almost like a shelter almost for people that are in trouble. Because I know people that I'm connected with that have been in that situation where they've been homeless and stuff. So just it's almost like a refuge for those people, whilst also having it for people that are doing all right and they just want to turn up for a spa day or for breath work or ice bath. So I want to build a wellness centre for people to sort of just come and be themselves and get that bit of help. Continue to work on the mindset workouts, branching that out, getting international. So going to the people, having a space for the people to come and find some help. And yeah, they're like the main things really. Everything else, whether the titles I get or who I'm with or what I earn or whatever, it's sort of irrelevant. I feel like that's still part of the middle ground, whatever. If I'm rich, poor, title, like anything like that doesn't really matter. So for me, it's that end goal of having the wellness centre for people to go to and having the mindset workouts for me to go to the people and sort of interact on a grassroots level, you know. And
all of that you've just said, is that like on your vision board? So do you like, is that something you look at every day?
Yeah, I've got my vision board. I've actually got so I've got my photos of like the houses and the wellness centers and the cars and everything. I've got all that on my vision board. I look at that every day. And I use Rob told me this. He said use your vision board as a trigger board. So when you look at the vision board, look at your car or look at the house, and again, shut your eyes and imagine what it'd be like to actually be standing in front of that car or that house, and use it as a trigger to start your visualizations. And I've also got a note in my wallet. I wrote it so long ago and it's been in my wallet every day since. I can't even remember what it says, but it's a list of affirmations of like, I am grateful for having X amount in my bank, X amount of friends, X amount of this. And like, there's a list of things I've got on there that I've got in my wallet right now that I don't even get out to look at. But I just have that in my wallet because I heard Jim Carrey do it.
Yeah.
He put a check for X amount of million of dollars in his pocket or in his fridge or something like that. And he kept looking at it every day and he just reminded himself of it. Then after time he forgot. And then it was when he sort of forgot he even had that check written out is when he got the money, I think, for Dumb and Dumber. He got that exact amount of money. Like in real life.
No, I know that story. Yeah. It's 10 million.
10 million.
It was the day before the check, like he wrote the date that he was going to get it.
Yes,
I think it was like the day before or something. Then he got that 10 million for it.
That's it. That's powerful. And I believe, I'm pretty sure on mine, again, so long since I wrote it, I believe I've got a date on there of when I'm 27. So I'm 26 at the minute. So whatever I've written on there that I forgot, in a year's time, I'm sure when I get it out, I'll be like tick, 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 tick. And I know they're pretty ambitious goals on there, but the way things are moving at the minute, I feel like I'm on track. And again, it's just that feeling of surrendering to it. I know I'll get it. I don't need to worry about how or when. I just know I'll get it by then. So it doesn't sort of worry me like the hows and the whats and stuff. You know, I've just got that bigger vision and I've surrendered to the universe and I know it will happen. So it's just a matter of time.
And I think lastly, what would be sort of like your best piece of advice or like a tip for someone who's really struggling right now and wants something to see a change in just a little change in their mindset?
So obviously what we spoke about before, have the practical steps of doing the meditations, doing the breath work and just taking time with yourself, going inwards, because a lot of people won't want to do it and a lot of people aren't doing it. And they're the people that continue to struggle. So just take some time to go within, essentially. I know that sounds very like monk-like, but just go within. But then also if you want to play a little game to prove what I'm saying is right, think of anything you want right now. And throughout the week, for those listening, keep thinking of that thing and I guarantee you'll see it everywhere. So my dream car was the Audi R8. Every other week I was seeing about 4 or 5 of them within a week. So put the vision into your mind, go out there and your reticular activating system, which Rob taught me, which is the part of your brain that is your filter, you'll be able to go out and you'll pick up those things in real life. Don't ask me how it works, but I just know it will. So if you're dreaming of a car, you're dreaming of a girlfriend, whatever it is, build that vision in your mind first. And when you go out into the world, I guarantee you'll start seeing it. If you want the blonde girl or the brunette girl, you'll start seeing it. If you want the red Ferrari, you'll start seeing the red Ferraris. Whatever it is, build that vision and you'll start seeing it. And then come to me later when you've finally got it.
Lawlor, thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.